Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're setting our sights on one of humanity's most enduring and, frankly, fascinating frontiers,
Yeah,
the human brain.
absolutely. It's this remarkable organ, right? Just a
Yeah.
few pounds, but it's everything we are. How we perceive things, what we create.
Exactly. And yet, despite centuries of looking into it, there are still so many profound mysteries. It's like a whole universe tucked inside each of us.
It really is. And the need to figure it out, it feels more urgent than ever now, doesn't it?
It really does. You think about understanding complex conditions like autism or neurological disorders, or
Mm.
pushing the boundaries in AI, or even just improving mental health care.
Yeah.
Neuroscience isn't just, sitting in a lab. It's about finding real-world solutions for some huge societal challenges, making breakthroughs that genuinely change lives.
And it's interesting how the brain sits right at the crossroads of almost everything. Science, sure, but even the arts and humanities. Well, it's a biological machine, obviously. But it's also this incredible computational device.
Hmm.
And at the same time, it's where all our experiences happen.
Right.
And with everything moving so fast in genetics, data science, cognitive psych, the pace of discovery in neuroscience itself is just, wow, it's breathtaking. It makes it such a dynamic field to be in right now.
That definitely sets the stage. So with that exciting backdrop, our deep dive today is zeroing in on a really unique place tackling this, UC Merced, and specifically its innovative neuroscience program.
Ah, UC Merced. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
It really is. It holds the special distinction, doesn't it? Being the newest campus in the whole University of California system. They call it the first American research university built in the 21st century.
That's right.
You almost get this sense of a pioneering spirit, a
Mhm.
real forward-looking energy just learning about it.
And that 21st century tag, it's more than just marketing speak.
Mhm.
It really points to a fundamental design philosophy. I mean, they had this rare chance to build everything, the programs of buildings from scratch,
Yeah.
which allows for a genuinely forward-thinking approach, baking in modern science needs and interdisciplinary thinking right from the blueprint instead of trying to retrofit older structures.
Okay, so our mission today then is to really unpack what makes this neuroscience program at UC Merced so uniquely positioned. We want to explore the kind of fascinating knowledge and essential skills you can pick up there.
And maybe most practically.
And then, yeah, most practically, how you actually navigate getting into this pioneering community. We've dug through a detailed overview of their program, their admissions process, all to bring you the clearest, most relevant info. So, let's dive in.
Okay, let's kick things off with that big question.
Mm.
Why is studying neuroscience so vital right now? We touched on it, but let's really get into the societal needs driving this field.
Yeah, the demand for neuroscientists is, well, it's surging. And it's because the insights we're gaining have such a direct impact on so many critical parts of our lives and technological progress.
Like what specifically? Okay, well, take something like autism and other developmental conditions. Neuroscientists are making real headway, understanding the kind of subtle errors in how brain cells talk to each other, the signaling that underlies these disorders.
Getting to the root causes.
Exactly, finding the biological basis,
Yeah,
which is just essential if you want to develop targeted interventions, treatments that actually work.
makes sense.
Then you've got the whole world of artificial intelligence, which is exploding, right?
Right,
The
yeah.
human brain is, arguably the ultimate intelligence system we know of. So by studying its complex architecture, how it works, neuroscientists are directly feeding into the creation of brain-inspired AI.
So neuroscience meets computation.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's building this bridge that's leading to completely new ways of thinking about AI and machine learning.
Mm.
We're literally looking at our own brains for clues on how to build smarter machines. It's pretty wild.
It is kind of mind-bending, thinking our brains are inspiring the next AI. What about mental health? That impacts so many people.
Oh, hugely impactful there, too. Researchers are finding new ways to understand mental health issues by looking at things like epigenetic changes in neurons.
Epigenetic changes. Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. So think of it like this. Your brain cells have genes, right? DNA. But epigenetics is like having dimmer switches on those genes, not just on-off.
Okay.
And external things, stress, maybe nutrition, early life stuff, can adjust those dimmers.
Yeah.
They change how genes are expressed without actually changing the DNA code itself.
Wow. So our experiences can physically change how our brain wiring works, essentially.
In a way, yes, they influence gene activity.
Yeah.
And understanding these mechanisms is crucial for developing better treatments, better prevention for things like depression, anxiety, PTSD. And then looking even further ahead, You have things like brain-machine interfaces.
Right, where tech connects directly to the nervous system.
Exactly. The potential there is just enormous.
Yeah.
Restoring lost functions for people with paralysis, maybe even enhancing abilities. It's cutting-edge stuff.
So yeah, it's crystal clear the world really needs people who get the brain inside and out. And UC Merced's program, you're saying, is specifically geared towards training students for these kinds of modern challenges.
That seems to be the core idea, yes. Preparing them to make a real impact on these contemporary scientific and societal issues.
Okay, let's pivot back to UC Merced itself. You mentioned that pioneering spirit, the first American research university built in the 21st century. What does that feel like for a student? What does it mean practically?
Well, that 21st century institution thing, it really translates into the physical environment and the overall vibe. It means modern facilities, designed with collaboration in mind.
Like the buildings themselves?
Yeah, exactly. If you look at pictures of the campus, say, the Social Sciences and Management building,
Yeah.
it often has this distinctive architecture, maybe a curved tower, lots of windows letting in natural light, wide hallways, open seating areas. These aren't just random design choices. They're meant to encourage people to bump into each other, to talk, to spark those cross-disciplinary conversations. It fosters a sense of openness.
So the space itself encourages collaboration.
Right. It's built for it, from the ground up. Modern, flexible learning spaces that just lend themselves to innovative teaching and research that crosses those traditional academic lines.
That sounds like a really dynamic environment. And that pioneering feel, the modern setup, it seems to dovetail perfectly with this idea of interdisciplinary learning, which is so huge in neuroscience now.
Absolutely. And connecting that back to the program itself, UC Merced's Neuroscience really embodies this. They often say neuroscience is at the intersection of all sciences and arts.
Which sounds great, but what does it mean in practice?
I mean, students are genuinely trained to pull insights together from, say, molecular biology and chemistry, but also computer science, psychology, even philosophy or engineering.
Do you mean an example?
Okay, so understanding how one single neuron fires an electrical signal. That involves physics and chemistry principles. But understanding how millions of those neurons work together to create a memory, that pulls in cognitive science, psychology.
Yes, different levels, different fields.
Exactly. And this integrated approach is just critical because real-world problems developing those brain-machine interfaces or fully getting a handle on psychiatric diseases, they don't fit neatly into one box. You need knowledge from all over.
So how does this kind of deep cross-disciplinary blend make it different from, say, other UC campuses, especially for undergrads?
Yeah, that's where UC Merced really carves out its niche. Lots of great UCs have strong neuroscience, no doubt. But often they might be more siloed. Like maybe the program is heavily biological in the bio department, or maybe it's more computational over in psych or comp-sci. At Merced, the way it's set up administratively based in the School of Social Sciences, Humanities, and Arts, but explicitly designed to pull from natural sciences and engineering, means that integration isn't just an add-on, it's foundational. It's baked into the curriculum from day one. You get a much more holistic view right from the start.
That built-in integration sounds like a really significant plus. And speaking of pluses, hands-on research is always a big deal for science students. But I heard UC Merced is like next level with this.
Oh, yeah. This is probably one of the most compelling points for anyone thinking about neuroscience there. UC Merced is ranked #1 in the entire UC system for undergraduate research participation.
#1 in the whole system. That's huge. What does that actually mean for a student's experience?
It means, practically speaking, you can likely get involved in real lab work much earlier than you might at some of the bigger, more competitive campuses like UCLA or UC San Diego.
Because there's less competition for spots.
Partly that, yeah.
Yeah.
Those places have tons of research, but also tons of students vying for those undergrad spots. At Merced, the smaller community, the more collaborative vibe, it just significantly boosts your chances of working directly with faculty on really cool, cutting-edge projects.
And not just washing test tubes, presumably.
Definitely not. We're talking meaningful involvement in actual scientific discovery, things that look amazing on a resume or grad school application,
Yeah.
It really sets you apart.
Can you give some examples? What kind of faculty research might undergrads actually get their hands dirty with?
Sure. For instance, there are professors studying those tiny errors in brain cell signaling that can lead to developmental disorders, like autism. Really critical work.
Okay.
Others are looking into those epigenetic changes, the dimmer switches in neurons, and how they relate to mental health. finding new targets for therapies. And for the AI inclined, there's research on how the brain integrates information from multiple senses to build our perception of the world. Insights that could directly help build better AI.
And undergrads are involved in this. How?
Yeah, often assisting directly with advanced techniques, maybe running EEG, brainwave recordings, putting electrodes on the scalp to measure brain activity, or doing detailed genetic analyses in the lab. Real techniques, real data, real skills.
Wow. So it's the quality of the mentorship and the relevance of the research, not just the chance to do it. That sounds amazing.
It really can be transformative.
And the program structure itself, I know it's innovative. They offer both a Bachelor of Science, BS, and a Bachelor of Arts, DA, in neuroscience. That's pretty unusual.
It is quite rare, yeah. And it really speaks to the program's flexibility and focus on the student. It's a major advantage letting you tailor your path.
So what's the difference? Who is the DS for?
Okay, the BS track is your comprehensive deep dive into the science. It really integrates molecular and cell neurobiology, cognitive science, psychology, even some foundational biomedical engineering stuff, plus the rigorous chemistry, physics, and math.
So heavy on the science and quantitative side.
Exactly. Yeah. Ideal if you're aiming for, say, grad school in neuroscience, maybe med school, or a very technical research job. It gives you that really deep scientific training.
Okay. And the BA?
The BA track covers the same core neuroscience topics, but the physics and math requirements are less intensive. This makes it perfect if you're maybe more drawn to the behavioral side, the cognitive aspects, maybe even the philosophy of mind.
Right.
So a BA student might take more courses in psychology or philosophy or social sciences, exploring the why behind behavior or the ethics of brain research, rather than focusing super heavily on advanced calculus. It allows for a broader, sometimes more humanities-focused perspective.
And for those BS students wanting to specialize even further, there are specific emphases.
Yes, exactly. The BS offers 3 distinct emphases for really focusing your studies. First, there's molecular, cellular, and systems neuroscience. Think of this as the wet lab track for folks really interested in the brain's biology and physiology at the most fundamental level. How neurons work, how circuits form, how that drives behavior. Electives would be things like advanced molecular biology, genetics, maybe anatomy. For example, you might take molecular immunology, Bio 151, looking at how the immune system and brain interact, super important for understanding things like MS or even long COVID brain fog.
Gotcha. Wet lab focus. What's next?
Second is computational, perceptual, and cognitive neuroscience. This is for students fascinated by the brain as this incredibly complex information processor, big link to AI here.
Right.
It's about computational modeling, understanding perception, the psychology of cognition. Think neuroscience meets computer science and data analysis. A key elective might be Bio 184, Python programming for life sciences. Learning to code to model biological data, super valuable skill. You'd also likely hit advanced cognitive science courses on memory, vision, language.
So brain as computer. Makes sense. And the third one?
The third is neuroscience of human health and development. This one's tailor-made for pre-med students or anyone interested in the brain's role in health, disease, and development across the lifespan.
Clinical focus.
Pretty much. How do neurological and psychiatric disorders develop? How does neuroscience inform clinical practice? Electives could be developmental neuroscience, clinical neuroscience. A good example course is BIO 171, Neurobiology of Brain Dysfunction and Disorders. You dive into Alzheimer's, autism, depression from a neurobiological angle. It sets you up well for medicine, clinical research, health fields.
That covers a really impressive range within the BS. And it's interesting, again, that the program lives in the School of Social Sciences, Humanities and Arts, SSHA, but pulls so much from natural sciences and engineering. What's the real student benefit there?
That administrative setup, it's a core strength. It basically guarantees that integrative experience. You're not just getting a bio-heavy degree or a psych-heavy degree. You're getting one designed from the start to draw on expertise from all over. It really lives up to that intersection of all sciences and arts idea. Essential for tackling the brain's complexity. Right? You get different perspectives, different methods, right, from day one.
Definitely sounds unique. What about other distinctive things? Initiatives, mentorship?
Well, a big one is the Center for Interdisciplinary Neuroscience, led by Professor Tony Shaheen. This center actively brings together researchers from all different fields to collaborate on neuroscience projects.
So more built-in collaboration.
Exactly. And for undergrads, it means exposure to a really wide range of perspectives. You see firsthand how different fields approach the same questions about the brain. Plus, UC Merced generally has a pretty favorable faculty-to-student ratio, which means better mentorship, more personalized attention. Professors can actually get to know you, guide you on classes, research, career stuff. That's often harder to find at the giant universities where you might feel like just a face in a huge lecture hall.
And I heard they're also innovative in how they teach, not just standard lectures.
That's right. Being newer, they seem really open to trying different teaching methods. You're more likely to find active learning classrooms, lots of discussion, hands-on problem solving.
Cool.
And there are unique opportunities too, like community health projects right there in the Central Valley. Maybe studying the effects of air pollution on brain health. It connects your learning directly to real-world issues impacting the local community.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what's the bottom line for someone considering this program? It sounds like UC Merced Neuroscience is a really compelling package. You've got a field that's incredibly relevant societally, combined with these really standout hands-on research opportunities that might be harder to snag elsewhere. Plus, personalized, genuinely interdisciplinary learning in an environment that feels both intimate and cutting edge. You get the UC rigor, the resources, the prep for grad school or med school.
But with maybe a more direct, collaborative, hands-on feel from the get-go.
Exactly. It seems like a really remarkable place to start exploring the brain. All right, so we've established the why UC Merced for neuroscience. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What exactly are you going to learn there? How is the curriculum actually structured to turn you into a neuroscientist?
Okay, the overall philosophy is pretty comprehensive. They aim to give you a really solid foundation, covering the nervous system from, as they say, molecules to mind.
Molecules to mind. I like that.
Yeah, and it's structured logically. You start with foundational science, the building blocks. Then you move into the core neuroscience courses. And then you get flexibility with electives or those emphasis areas to really dive deep into what interests you most.
So it's not just about facts, right?
Oh, definitely not. The goal isn't just knowing stuff about the brain anatomical parts, molecular pathways, cognitive theories. It's also about equipping you with critical scientific skills. Things like designing good experiments, analyzing data effectively, thinking critically. These are the tools you need for any career in this field, whether it's research, healthcare, tech, whatever comes next.
Okay, so let's start with those foundations, the building blocks. What do those first couple of years look like?
Right, so in your first 2 years, you'll tackle a suite of foundational courses, mostly math and the core sciences. Everybody, BA and BS alike, takes general biology and general chemistry sequences.
Makes sense. Basic bio and chem.
Absolutely crucial. Cell biology, genetics, the chemical principles behind everything. Neurons are cells, after all. You need that bedrock knowledge.
What about math and physics? Is that for everyone too?
This is where the BS and BA paths start to diverge a bit.
Yeah.
For BS students, yes, calculus and a full physics sequence are required.
Why is that so important for the BS?
Because modern neuroscience is super quantitative. You need that math reasoning. And understanding physical principles helps grasp things like how neurons generate electrical signals. It's kind of analogous to understanding circuits, you know.
Okay.
For BA students, though, there's less emphasis there. Maybe just one semester of calculus or stats, and often no physics requirement. That flexibility is deliberate. It caters to students leaning more towards the behavioral or cognitive side, lets them focus there without the same heavy quantitative load as the BS.
That flexibility seems really key. And I noticed something interesting in the prerequisites for all neuroscience majors. An intro course in either cognitive science or psychology. Why is that standard?
Yeah, that's a real hallmark of Merced's interdisciplinary approach. The idea is to make sure every neuroscience student, BA or BS, gets that higher level perspective on mind and behavior.
So you're not just looking at cells in isolation.
Exactly. You're understanding the system that produces memory, perception, decision-making, social interaction. Taking Intro Cog Sci or Intro Psych provides that crucial context for all the biological mechanisms you learn later. It bridges the gap between the neuron and the person.
Got it. And neuroscience is super data heavy these days, so stats and research methods must be big too.
Oh, absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Neuroscience spits out huge amounts of data, neuron firing rates, brain scans, behavioral scores.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll take a solid statistics course, maybe 4 or 5 units, learning how to actually analyze all that data. Could be biostats, could be psych stats, but the goal is the same. Get the tools to make sense of numbers.
And methods, designing studies.
Yep. Usually a dedicated research methods course too, often something like research methods in psychological science. That teaches you the fundamentals, how to design a rigorous experiment, basic lab techniques, how to write up your findings scientifically, essential skills for reading papers critically, and eventually for doing your own research.
Okay, foundation laid. Then what are the core neuroscience courses? The real deep dive into the brain itself.
Right. The Gateway Upper Division course is usually NUR 101, Fundamentals of Neuroscience, typically taken junior year. This gives you the big picture how nervous systems work,
Yeah.
from the cellular level, electrical signal synapses, all the way up to systems and behavior.
Covering a lot of ground.
It does. Basic neuroanatomy, brain structures, neurophysiology, how neurons function and communicate, even an intro to neuropharmacology, how drugs affect the brain. It establishes that common core knowledge for both BA and BS folks.
And then
Then you often have BO 170, neurobiology and its lab, BIO 170L. The lecture, BIO 170, goes much deeper into the cellular and molecular side, ion channels, neural development, the basis of neurological diseases.
And the lab, BIO-170L. That sounds hands-on.
Extremely hands-on. This is where you translate theory into practice. You might be looking at actual brain tissue under a microscope, maybe recording electrical signals from cells using electrodes, or doing behavioral experiments with model organisms. It's invaluable practical training in techniques, data collection, analysis. Really essential stuff.
That practical side sounds like it really cements the learning. Given the interdisciplinary focus, are there other core courses that reflect that unique Merced approach?
Yeah, definitely. You'll likely find other core requirements pulling from related fields. For instance, a core course in cognitive neuroscience, often taught via CogSci or Psych, looking at how brain activity maps onto thinking and behavior, attention, language, decision-making.
Connecting brain to mind.
Exactly. Or maybe core courses in behavioral neuroscience or physiological psychology. And especially on the BS track, you'll see exposure to biomedical engineering concepts. Maybe even learning about neuroengineering, designing devices that interface with neurons, or computational modeling of neural networks. It ensures you're seeing the field from multiple angles.
Wow, that's a really comprehensive core. But what if someone has a super specific interest, like they only want to study, say, memory or addiction? Can they specialize that much?
Absolutely. That's honestly one of the program's biggest strengths, the ability to customize through upper division electives. The BS has those formal emphases we talked about, providing clear pathways. But even BA students get a lot of elective choices to shape their focus.
Let's revisit those BS emphases with that in mind. The molecular, cellular, and systems one.
Right, that's for the real wet lab folks.
Yeah.
If you want to understand the nitty-gritty biology and physiology, electives are heavy on advanced molecular bio, genetics, anatomy, like that molecular immunology course, BIO 151L, understanding the brain-immune connection. Or advanced cell bio, really digging into neuron function and disease mechanisms at that level. Lots of hands-on lab work is expected here.
Okay. And the computational, perceptual, and cognitive emphasis.
That's for the information processing crowd. Brain is a computer, AI connections. Coursework pulls in computer science, data analysis, like that Python programming course, BIO 184, learning to code specifically for biological data. Super useful. Plus advanced courses in CogSci memory, vision, language, how the brain processes sensory info. It's right at that intersection of neuroscience and AI.
Got it. And the neuroscience of human health and development.
That's the track, often chosen by pre-meds or anyone focused on the brain in health, disease, and across the lifespan. Electives like developmental neuroscience, clinical neuroscience, that BIO 171 course on brain dysfunction and disorders is key here. Alzheimer's, autism, depression from a neurobiological perspective. You might also mix in human physiology, biochemistry, health psych. It really bridges basic neuroscience to human health applications.
Incredible depth in each one. What about the BA students? How do they tailor their path without the formal emphasis?
They still have significant choice. They need to take at least 12 units of upper division electives, often more. They could pick some courses from the BS emphasis if they meet prerequisites or explore other areas like neuroendocrinology, brain hormones, or behavioral genetics.
So more mix and match potential.
Exactly. The real strength of the BA is that breadth. You might pair your neuroscience electives with more psychology or anthropology, linguistics, philosophy of mind, neuroethics. It sets you up well for careers needing that broader perspective. Neuropsychology, science writing, neuroethics, policy work.
It really sounds like both paths heavily emphasize learning by doing, which seems core to UC Merced.
Totally. Beyond just the required BIO 170L lab, that ethos is everywhere. Many students get involved in faculty research labs, often for course credit, sometimes even paid positions. Remember that #1 ranking for undergrad research. It means those opportunities are real and accessible.
How do students find those spots?
Through things like the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Center, UROC, or by enrolling in a specific undergraduate research and neuroscience course. Often, it just involves reaching out to professors whose work sounds interesting. And this hands-on work frequently leads to a capstone experience.
Like a final project.
Yeah, maybe an independent research project, writing a full senior thesis based on your lab work, or presenting your findings at the campus's undergraduate research symposium. It's a great way to pull everything together and hone those research and communication skills.
Let's circle back and maybe expand a bit on what really makes the Merced neuroscience experience unique. Beyond the courses and labs, what are those other distinguishing features?
Well, that deep engagement across fields is huge. It's genuinely normal for a Merced neuroscience student schedule to have, say, a philosophy of cognitive science class right next to neurochemistry. That molecules to mind scope is really lived out in the curriculum.
Right.
In the administrative home and SSHA, pulling from natural sciences means you get both the hardcore science training and valuable liberal arts perspectives. BA students especially, but even BS, might fulfill requirements like foreign language or humanities breadth, building communication skills, critical thinking, cultural awareness, things valuable everywhere.
Definitely. What about class sizes and getting time with professors? Is that different from bigger UCs?
Oh, potentially a massive difference, especially in upper division courses. Because it's a newer program at a growing campus, those advanced neuroscience classes are likely to be smaller than at, say, Berkeley or UCLA.
So more interaction.
Way more. More chances for real discussion, getting personalized feedback, actually building relationships with professors. You're less likely to feel lost in the crowd. Faculty can genuinely mentor you. It's common for them to invite undergrads to lab meetings or research talks experiences often reserved for grad students elsewhere. That access can be huge.
And outside the classroom at formal labs, other hands-on stuff.
Yeah, Merced encourages applying knowledge. You might find honors, seminars, digging deep into current research papers or team projects. Maybe through something like engineering service learning, you could help build an EEG device or develop a mental health app applying neuroscience directly. And the campus focus on sustainability and community means projects like studying local air pollution's impact on brain health, real-world relevance.
That's cool.
Plus, expect a lively scene outside of class, too. Neuroscience colloquia, guest speakers, top scientists, or clinicians visiting campus, and active student clubs, like a neuroscience club or maybe a neurotech club. Great ways to learn beyond the syllabus and start building your professional network early on.
Okay, so when someone finishes this program, what's the big takeaway? What have they really gained?
Fundamentally, it's not just what you know, but how you think. You graduate with knowledge spanning molecular bio to cognitive psych, sure. You get solid lab skills, data analysis skills. But critically, you develop this ability to think across disciplines, to synthesize information from different fields.
Thinking like a neuroscientist.
Exactly. Analyzing complex problems from multiple angles, working collaboratively, always asking the next question. That interdisciplinary toolkit is invaluable wherever you end up. As Professor Shaheen said, the degree lets you tailor their career to fit their unique interest. And Merced seems genuinely set up to help you do just that.
Okay, this program sounds incredible, the depth, the research, the unique approach. But now, for the million-dollar question, how do you actually get in? The UC system has this reputation for being super competitive. What's the reality for UC Merced?
That's definitely top of mind for applicants, and here's some potentially good news. While UC Merced is absolutely a rising star, gaining recognition fast for its research and innovation, it's generally seen as, let's say, more accessible for admission compared to the most selective UCs like UCLA or Berkeley.
So, still tough, but maybe not as intensely competitive.
Right. They absolutely uphold the high UC academic standards.
Yeah.
But if you look at recent stats, Merced's overall admit rate has been quite high, maybe around 90% or so.
Wow, 90%. That's encouraging.
It is. Now, that doesn't mean anyone gets in. The middle 50% GPA for admitted freshmen usually falls somewhere between, say, 3.4 and 4.0 unweighted. So you still need a strong academic record, mostly A's and B's in challenging courses. It's selective, yes, but maybe less restrictive, offering a really solid shot for qualified students who are passionate about it.
Okay, so if neuroscience is your thing, this could be a really viable pathway. What are the key academic boxes applicants need to tick?
First off, you absolutely have to complete the AG subject requirements in high school. That's the non-negotiable foundation for any UC eligibility-specific courses in history, English, math, lab science, language, arts, and electives. For neuroscience hopefuls, doing well in biology, chemistry, and ideally physics within those requirements is highly recommended.
And GPA?
GPA is obviously crucial. Aiming for a 3.5 or higher unweighted definitely puts you in a stronger position. The minimum for UC eligibility is 3.0 for California residents, 3.4 for non-residents, but Honestly, most admitted students at Merced are comfortably above that, often in that 3.4 to 4.04 range. And it's not just the number, it's the course rigor. Admissions folks really look at whether you challenged yourself with the courses available at your school, taking honors, AP, or IB classes, especially in science and math, AP Bio, AP Chem, AP Psych, AP Calc, that shows you're ready for demanding college work. It adds significant weight beyond just the GPA number itself.
Okay. Now, the big question. Standardized tests. SAT, ACT. Are those still a factor for UC Merced?
Yeah, this is a critical update for the whole UC system. UC is currently test-free for admissions.
Test-free, meaning?
Meaning they do not require or consider SAT or ACT scores at all for admission decisions. This policy started in 2021 and is still in place for 2025 and likely beyond. So you don't need to submit scores, and if you do, they won't be looked at for admission purposes.
So focus elsewhere.
Yes, exactly. Focus entirely on your GPA, your course rigor, and the other parts of the application. That's what counts now. You can still submit AP or IB exam scores later for potential college credit or placement, but the exams themselves don't influence whether you get admitted. And just in terms of general preparation, while not strict prerequisites, having that strong high school background in bio, chem, and math is super helpful. Doing well in those classes, maybe even physics or psych, just strengthens your profile. And if your school happens to offer anything specific like a neuroscience elective or programming, bonus points for showing interest, but definitely not required.
Got it. So it's clearly more than just numbers. UC uses this holistic review process, right? What does that actually mean day to day for an applicant?
It means they look at the whole person, not just stats. There's no magic GPA cutoff or formula. The admissions committee reads your entire application and considers everything in context. Your grades, sure, but also your personal achievements, any special talents, your background, the opportunities you had or didn't have.
So things beyond academics matter.
Absolutely. Things like maybe showing a big improvement in your grades over time or taking on tough academic challenges even if you didn't ace everything. Or maybe you overcame significant personal hardship. UC Merced particularly values students who show resilience, passion, and who seem likely to contribute positively to the campus community. It's really about your whole story.
That's good to hear.
Okay.
So how can students really make those personal qualities pop in their application, especially in those essays, the PIQs, and the activities list?
Okay, the personal insight questions, PIQs, are hugely important here.
Yeah.
This is your chance to be authentic, to reflect, to let your actual voice come through. Did you really think about the prompts? Do your answers show your character, what drives you, your initiative?
Like telling a story.
Exactly. Maybe you write about why neuroscience fascinates you. Was it a family experience with illness? A cool science fair project on AI? Specific examples are way more powerful than generic statements. Show, don't just tell is the classic advice for a reason. Instead of, I love science, maybe dissecting that sheep brain in bio and seeing the structures firsthand, that's when I knew I had to understand this. Details stick.
Makes sense. What about extracurriculars and leadership? Do you just need a laundry list of clubs?
Definitely not. It's about meaningful involvement. Depth over breadth, almost always. What did you actually do? What impact did you have? Relevant things are great science club, hospital volunteering, anything brain-related. But it's broader than that.
Like sports or jobs.
Yeah. Part-time jobs, major family responsibilities like childcare, being captain of a team, playing an instrument seriously. All of that shows valuable skills. Leadership, teamwork, time management, responsibility. The admissions team wants to see what you learned, how you grew. And leadership isn't just being president. It's taking initiative, solving problems, helping others. Use action words to describe what you did and what the result was. And sure, if you have achievements and awards on honor society, science fairs, AP Scholar, list them accurately, they definitely notice formal recognition. But don't sweat it if you don't have a ton of awards. Strong qualities shown elsewhere matter just as much, if not more. And finally, don't shy away from using the space provided to explain personal or educational challenges. That life context piece is really important in a holistic review. Well, overcoming obstacles, maybe economic hardship, a disability, going to a school with few resources that shows incredible determination, resilience, potential. Reviewers understand that achievement is relative to opportunity. Someone maintaining good grades while working 20 hours a week, that's impressive. Someone pursuing independent study because their school lacked APs, that shows initiative. These things highlight your grit, and UC Merced values that. Some big scholarships, like the Regents, explicitly look at life hardships.
Right, painting that full, honest picture. Okay, let's do a quick run-through. Application components checklist. What do people actually need to assemble?
Okay, essentials. First, the main UC application form. It's all online, usually due November 30th for the fall. You put in your biographical info, meticulously list all your high school courses and grades, and optionally any APIB exam scores. Remember, no SAT needed or wanted. This is where you'll select your intended major, Neuroscience BA or BS, or maybe undeclared. Next up, those personal insight questions, PIQs. 4 short essays, 350 words max each, chosen from 8 prompts. Your interviews on paper. Share who you are beyond the numbers. Show your personality, motivations, experiences. Maybe use one prompt for your neuroscience passion, another for a challenge you overcame, another for leadership. Be specific, be genuine, tell your story. Then, the activities and awards section. Space for up to 20 entries, extracurriculars, jobs, volunteering, honors, family responsibilities. Prioritize quality over quantity. Use action verbs in the descriptions. Organize fundraisers, tutored students, managed inventory. Quantify if you can. Raise $500, led team of 5. And definitely include those family duties. For academic records, you self-report everything on the application, courses, grades. Official transcripts only come later, after you're admitted and decide to enroll, just to verify. Make sure you've met those AG requirements. And list any college courses, community college, AP, IB, you might get credit for.
What about letters of recommendation? Are those needed for UC Merced?
Okay, crucial point here. Often causes confusion. No. Generally, letters of recommendation are not required or accepted for general freshman admission at UC Merced, or most UCs for that matter.
Really? Not at all.
Not unless you were specifically contacted and asked for one, maybe for a special scholarship or program, which is rare for fresh admission. So don't stress about getting letters. Focus your energy on the parts of the application they do. Look at the PIQs, the activities list, your grades and courses, and just hammer it home on standardized test scores. Again, SAT are not needed, not considered. Don't send them for admission. APIB exam scores. Yes, you can report those if they're good, like 3+, as they might get you college credit or let you skip intro classes later on, but they won't help you get in. Finally, the application fee or waiver. It's $70 per campus for U.S. applicants. But fee waivers are readily available if you meet low-income criteria. Just request it right in the application. It can cover up to 4 UC campuses. And obvious, but critical. Submit everything by the deadline, usually November 30th.
Okay, solid checklist. Now, a common dilemma. Should you apply directly to Neuroscience BA or BS, or is it safer to apply undeclared if you're maybe not 100% certain yet? What's the play at Merced?
Yeah, good practical question. If you're pretty sure neuroscience is your path, go ahead and apply directly to the major, BA or BS. At Merced, neuroscience is not considered an impacted major.
Meaning it's not harder to get into than the university overall.
Exactly. Choosing it won't hurt your chances. In fact, it shows focus and interest, which can be a slight positive. They're generally happy to bring motivated students into this growing program. There's no separate application for the major itself. You get into the campus and the major together. Now, if you were genuinely undecided, maybe torn between neuroscience and, say, bioengineering or psychology, applying undeclared, either within a school like SSHA or natural sciences or just overall undeclared, is a perfectly fine strategy. It gives you breathing room to explore in your first year.
But what about falling behind in coursework?
That's the key caveat. Even if you apply undeclared, if you have a strong inkling neuroscience might be it, you should still try to follow the recommended first-year course plan for neuroscience majors. Take that intro bio, intro chem, maybe calculus. That way, if you do declare neuroscience later, which is usually straightforward by sophomore year, you won't be behind schedule. So undeclared on paper, but maybe pre-neuroscience in practice.
And what if you start in neuroscience and then want to switch out?
Generally pretty doable, especially in the first year or two. UC Merced tends to be quite accommodating. You'd follow the process to change majors, make sure you meet any prerequisites for the new major. Switching between schools might have an extra step, but it's usually possible. The main thing is, the later you switch, the more likely you might need extra time to finish the new requirements.
So, bottom line, applying directly to neuroscience versus undeclared doesn't really change your admission odds much at Merced.
Not drastically, no. Admission is mostly based on your overall qualifications for the campus. Being undeclared won't hurt you. Having a clear, demonstrated interest in neuroscience might offer a tiny nudge, but it's just one piece of that big holistic review pie. Your overall record and story matter most.
Any final words of wisdom, then, for someone aiming for UC Merced in neuroscience?
Yeah, I'd say. Build that strong academic foundation in high school, especially in science and math. Then really put thought into your application. Make it authentic. Show your passion, your experiences, your strengths. Merced wants students who are ready for UC-level work, yes, but also students who will engage with the community and bring their unique perspective. Be meticulous with the application deadlines, accuracy, and definitely convey why UC Merced and this specific program excites you. Given their approach, you've got a real shot if you present yourself well.
What a deep dive. I feel like you've just received a really comprehensive, yet hopefully pretty clear picture of UC Merced's neuroscience program, a genuine shortcut to being, well, really well informed.
Hopefully useful.
Definitely. From why neuroscientists are so needed, to the program's unique interdisciplinary style, those amazing research opportunities, the flexible curriculum, and the accessible admissions, really seems like a standout program. Cutting-edge field, modern campus, supportive vibe.
It's a compelling combination.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought, something to chew on, tying back to everything we discussed. Given how neuroscience is so tangled up with understanding ourselves, our behavior, and these powerful emerging technologies like AI, what kind of maybe ethical responsibilities do future neuroscientists, like the ones graduating from Merced's unique program, really carry as they shape how we see the mind and build these new brain-inspired tools?
That's a big question.
It is. It's a field not just about discovery, right? But about profound consideration for the future it's helping create. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this gave you some fresh perspective, maybe sparked some new curiosity about the incredible unfolding story of the brain.